Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn at Work session titled Be Heart Healthy. The program is brought to you by the Get Moving, Get Healthy New Jersey Workforce Program and funded by the New Jersey Prevention Network. Let's talk about fat. It sure tastes good, but boy, do we pay a price for that. There are so many health risks related to having a high fat diet. For example, obesity and diabetes. Way too many Americans are having diabetes today, type 2, which is very dangerous for them as they age. It's better to reduce the risk before you become diabetic. How about high blood pressure? We hear a lot about that now. And heart disease, which can cause heart attack and stroke. High fat diets also can help to increase the risk of some cancers like colon, prostate, and breast cancer. That's why we always talk about having a low fat diet so that we can reduce the risk of these various situations. But that does have a benefit in our diet. It provides energy in terms of calories. It also provides some fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. It helps to pad our body and protect it. Unfortunately, some of us have too much padding and protection on our body these days. In food, fat makes the food taste better. It gives it a great flavor, a wonderful smell, and a very pleasant mouth feel. Fat is used in baked products to make them tender, and also in cooking, it helps to conduct heat during cooking, so food will cook a little bit faster. There are a lot of fat terms that we hear all the time, and what we're going to do is take just a few minutes and focus on each one of them to try to understand the difference between what they mean. Let's start with saturated fat. Saturated fat is usually solid at room temperature. So that's pretty easy to figure out, isn't it? It's found in animal products for the most part, from various meat, poultry, milk products, whole or reduced fat milk, cheese, and butter. So when you think about that, butter will stay solid at room temperature. It may soften, but it will still stay in a solid form. Saturated fat is also found in coconut and palm oils and some vegetable oils. And what saturated fat does is it increases your blood cholesterol levels. Now, you may have just heard your doctor say recently that you need to lower your blood cholesterol levels. That's why we do programs like this, so you can have some ideas about just how to go about doing that. Let's look at monounsaturated fats. These fats will stay liquid at room temperature and found mainly in canola, olive, and peanut oils, and also found in almonds, peanuts, and avocado. How about polyunsaturated fats? These fats will stay liquid or soft at room temperature, and it's the main fat in a variety of seafood and the oils we see listed here on the screen. Safflower, soybean, sunflower, corn, and flaxseed oil all have polyunsaturated fats, and so do walnuts. The less saturated fat you have, the better it will be for your health. How about omega-3 fatty acids? We've heard a lot about this lately. This is a type of polyunsaturated fat, and it's found in cold water fish like tuna, mackerel, bluefish, and salmon. But it's also found in flax seeds and walnuts. This type of fat helps to lower the blood triglycerides and make you a little bit more heart healthy. The less saturated the fat, the better off you are. That's the thing you need to remember. How about trans fatty acids? We've heard a lot about this in recent years, and we've even seen some changes in our labeling on our food products to help us understand a little bit more about trans fatty acids. These are formed when vegetable oils are processed into margarine or shortening. So they're also part of some animal products and some dairy foods. And what happens is it raises the LDL blood cholesterol levels. It's used in many snack and baked good foods, So be sure to read those labels so you know when you're eating trans fatty acids. What is blood cholesterol? Well, by now, hopefully, you have a better understanding of it. It's a waxy substance that your body makes itself, and it also can come from consuming high cholesterol foods. This waxy substance can build up on your artery walls and cause blockages, and this is a very unhealthy situation when that happens. So, we want to do what we can to reduce your blood cholesterol levels because that reduces your risk of heart disease. What about dietary cholesterol? Now, we know there's cholesterol in the foods we eat, and perhaps your doctor has told you that you need to limit the amount of cholesterol that you're consuming. It's found in animal products like meat, fish, poultry, and shellfish. And the rule is that you should eat no more than 300 milligrams of dietary cholesterol per day. Here's an example. See a piece of red meat there on the screen. A 3-ounce serving, which is about the size of a deck of cards, the width, the height, the thickness, or the size of the palm of your hand if you have a fairly small hand. And in that, you'll see that you'll have about 70 to 75 milligrams of cholesterol. Chances are that when you're eating red meat, you're eating more than one serving of it. So the cholesterol can increase very quickly depending on how much of these types of foods you're eating. The key is to know your fat limits. You should consume between 20 to 35% of your calories from fat, about 7 to 10% of those calories from saturated fat. So that's where we were talking about some of the animal fats. Only about 10 to 15% from monounsaturated fat, and only about 10% from polyunsaturated fats. So we need to control the amount of fat that we're consuming in our diet. These are the terms you need to look for when you're in the supermarket and purchasing foods that contain cholesterol. You want fat-free, low-fat, reduced or less fat foods, trans fat-free, reduced or less saturated fat-free foods, or low or reduced cholesterol foods. Let's take a quick look at fats and oil. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see the foods you should limit or totally avoid. In most cases, totally avoid some of these. We should limit the amount of butter we have. We should limit or more totally avoid lard and palm oils. We want to be very careful about them. We want to limit the amount of stick margarine we have and more likely avoid the amount of shortening we have in our diet. So your best bets are on the right, and that would be your non-stick cooking sprays. They are just wonderful to give you just enough coating on a food to provide the fat flavor without all of the cholesterol. You might want to consider using a light whipped margarine or use olive or canola oil. These provide wonderful flavors to your food without the unpleasant fats. When purchasing dairy foods, you should choose about 3 low or non-fat dairy products each day. And here are some examples of those foods. We always recommend non-fat or low-fat milk for most people and light or non-fat yogurt as well. Low-fat cheese is good, but you want to limit the portion sizes that you're having if you're having the full fat cheese or dairy product. Look for fat-free frozen yogurt and light ice cream in the dairy aisles. What about meat, poultry, and seafood? Too many Americans are consuming much more cholesterol and fat from this type of food than they should be. Red meat is also very high in cholesterol and high in saturated fat. So, to try to reduce the risk of disease, the recommendation is to reduce the amount of those foods that you're eating. So, if you're purchasing meat, what do you want to look for? You want to look for round or loin cuts in beef or in pork. In lamb, you might want to look for the leg. And if you're having wild game foods, it's actually considered quite lean. You want to make sure that you are choosing meat cuts that have little fat or marbling. We do need fat in the food for it to taste good and to cook well and marbling, but not too much. So you want to make sure you're reducing the amount of that. And you do want to trim all the fat that you can before you cook your meat. Look for foods that are 85 to 95% when you're purchasing fresh ground meat. How about poultry? Take that skin off before eating it. I know the temptation is great to eat the skin, but that's where tremendous amount of fat is on poultry. The breast meat is slightly lower in fat than the other portions, like a leg or a thigh. You also want to trim the visible fat, and lean ground turkey is an excellent choice. Give it a try if you haven't already. When you're purchasing seafood, look for salmon or lake trout, mackerel, or tuna even for some heart healthy fats. Aim for about 2 servings a week of seafood. How about some beans? Now, this is a really good low fat protein choice. Beans provide lots of protein in your diet. They're also very economical. So, try a variety of beans in various dishes or soups or stews that you're making and see what you think about that. Tofu or edamame are excellent choices for protein in your diet, and you can also use egg whites or cholesterol-free egg products as well. How about fruits and vegetables? Fruits and vegetables and grains are naturally low in fat, but there are a couple that do contain high fat, and that would be coconut or coconut cream or avocado. But most of the time, it's the topping and the cooking methods that add the fat to the foods you like. When it comes to dessert, choose a dessert that is healthful. It helps keep you from overeating. And read the labels on packaged products or make the food yourself so you can control the amount of fat and maybe even try eating a smaller portion. In this picture, a sponge cake is served with fresh fruit, and that makes a beautiful, just delightful dessert for you and your family. What about some examples of heart healthy snacks? What can you have with you, take to work, or when you're on the run with your family? Well, you can see there are lots of items here to choose from. Fruit is always a wonderful snack, or some type of low fat cheese with low fat crackers. Vegetables and a low fat dip is a wonderful snack. My favorite would be making homemade hummus and having some raw vegetables along with that. That's really very satisfying. How about cereal and low fat milk as a snack? And as I said, your angel food cake makes a nice dessert. If you're choosing cookies, vanilla wafers or ginger snaps would be your best choices. And look for low fat or baked chips when you're serving salsa. Salsa is actually nutritious for you because it has fresh vegetables in it. It's usually what we serve it with that takes away all that wonderful nutrition. Try to make some low-fat smoothies that include yogurt for your family. Everyone loves them. Or consider having pretzels or air pop popcorn as a snack in your household. Cooking makes a difference. So if you're going to be really conscious about what you're doing with the fat and the meat that you're cooking, look for baking, broiling, steaming, roasting, microwaving, grilling, braising, boiling or simmering. Stir frying is wonderful, and sauteing recipes. If you want to avoid the high fat methods, you want to stay away from frying and adding extra fat by basting with fat and cooking in fatty sauces and gravies. Here are a few more ways to reduce the fat. You can make a soup and allow it to chill in the refrigerator and skim the fat off the top. That will help to reduce the fat there. Or you can use lots of herbs and spices and garlic and lemon to season your food. These add lots of flavor and they don't add the fat. Use low-fat marinades to add flavor and tenderize your foods as well. We hope you've enjoyed today's Lunch and Learn at Work session and join us for additional programs in the future. Have a nice day.